Welcome to the DanOCan YouTube channel. This is an exciting stop for us. We are probably the last ghost town, abandoned place aficionados, anyway, you know what I mean, to visit Sandon, British Columbia. But after about a 2.5 hour drive from our campground up by Revelstoke, we finally made it, and right now it's a bit overwhelming, not even sure where to start. So let's just get touring, I guess. So we'll start here at the Sandon information board and kind of get the lay of the land. A little bit of history about some of the specific places. The trolley collection. The hydro station. We'll go see what we can find. So here's a little information. The restoration and reuse of 15 historic Canadian Brill electric trolleys. And it says we're allowed to enter, so we may as well check it out. This fella here's going to ask for some money, undoubtedly.
The original intent was that these Canadian car Brill electric trolley buses would just be stored in Sandon until they could be restored and put into a transit museum in different cities. But that hasn't happened, so they just live here in Sandon now.
Here's some history on this specific Brill trolley coach, 2201, built in 1950 in Fort William, Ontario, which is now part of Thunder Bay. Built for Vancouver Fleet. Repainted to the present colors in 1970. Very cool. Very cool. Okay. A lot of stuff to see here already. You can see the steam locomotive down there. Looks like the railroad grade on the left. There were two competing railroads that ran into Sandon, and apparently the last passenger train came through here in 1933. Emily was doing some reading on the drive up while we had internet connection. It was very spotty here and there, so you know, some of the facts will have to get filled in later.
A major flood came through Sandon in 1955 and eliminated a lot of the buildings that were left over from the silver mining boomtown days.
Some old ruins off on to our right here. There's the sign for the power station. Western Canada's oldest continuously operating power plant. Lots of old mining remnants here. And again, this looks like part of the old rail alignment, if I had to guess. And we're not 100% sure what we're looking at here, but it makes sense. It looks like some sort of perhaps loading thing for rail cars. There's this chute at the bottom there. This looks like it could have been another platform for loading of material out of the mines. Sandon was a big mining town. Model 8 Denver rock drill. Keep on a solid concrete foundation. Well, they've certainly done that. So yeah, now that we've kind of walked around the site, we can get a better look here at what some of these items are. And that area there was a raise, hoist, skip car and chute gate from the mine stope loading chutes. So we were pretty close when we thought it was some sort of loading mechanism. And of course all these old mine cars and stuff here. So it sounds like 2020 was quite the year for Sandon. Never mind the pandemic, but they suffered some pretty serious flooding. And this is obviously a bit of an older sign because it talks about the issues will need to be assessed before a plan to open the famous Prospector's Pick Store and the Sandon generating station to visitors. Well, both of those things are open now, so clearly this has been addressed since then. The Idaho Peak Road is not open yet, so you are not allowed to drive up there. Which is too bad, because just looking at this sign, it sounds like it'd be one amazing trip. I mean, steep single lane rough dirt road requiring a high clearance vehicle? What more could you ask for? So there we go, a little history here of the Kaslo and Slocan Railway liquor warehouse that we're standing in front of. And yeah, the K&S Railway, one of the two railways that I mentioned operated in this area, disappeared in 1910, became a family home, then a home for Japanese Canadian internees. So there's a look, you can see the liquor warehouse circled there, and then the White House off to the left and the little shed, and both of those are still also here to this day. So you could kind of line up that shot looking up the gulch there. The White House and the shed. And here's a little bit of history on the White House. First appears in photos taken in 1896. Currently a storehouse for silversmith power and light, with hopes of it one day being restored. And a closer look at this shed. No, too much reflection, can't really see anything inside. And there's a little bit of a view. So maybe it's Canada's oldest continuously operating hydroelectric station.
That Pelton wheel is in that big black case at the back here. So if I tell kids there's a big wheel in there with paddles or cups on it, it's hard to say what they're imagining. So I like this broken one here.
Okay.
They can see where the water went in. They can pull on the paddles and make it all turn. And then I explain how there is a way bigger wheel, and that's the paddles for it. So that would have maybe ran a woodwork shop. This had to run the big mine. So to kids, it's like, okay, little motor for the car, big one for the truck. I joke about this being our free hand warming service. Parents will see little kids get near it and they're, oh, get away. If this was dangerous, we'd cover it. So I just go ahead and I say, yeah, hand warming is free. That way the parents will let the kids touch it. And a lot of the parents that might have warned their kids, once they get close, they're like, well, what would that be like? So I just go ahead. The thing is, it's only 360 RPM, so it's really not very fast.
Does feel all right.
The big black stone here. If you like to see old motors fired up and hear them, Labor Day weekend every year, either Saturday or Sunday, I tell people either check ahead or come and camp for the weekend. But we fire it up mostly for show. We don't need a backup anymore. We now have 4 creeks to get water from. And if we got low, Hydro doesn't care how much power we're putting out there. But it's an air assist start. And what I love is when little kids are around, I'll go, you got to take the key, and one of them's bound to say, that's not a key. I say, do you put the key in the ignition hole and turn it? Yep. Well, we put this key in the flywheel hole. Somebody's got to push real hard. It moves the cylinders just enough the air from that compressor can get in and move them fully, and then the diesel can take over.
So I probably didn't do a good job of explaining the history of this. This is a Tesla designed 60 hertz AC generator, completely hydro powered, installed in 1897, was originally used for powering the mine, now actually provides all the power to Sandon and puts power back into the BC hydro grid.
And this here is where the output is. And you can see how much water is coming out of there. The fella inside during the tour was saying that all this water gets nozzled down into a 4-inch nozzle before it gets applied to the Pelton wheel. So no wonder there's a lot of force, especially when you also factor in the almost 200 meters of head pressure. Oh, and over here we have one of these green historic signs, 1969. I absolutely love these signs and when they dotted the landscape. And yes, you can see the silver mining industry here. Sandon dating to 1895. And of course, I'm always fascinated with the fire trucks, and this one looks like it's actually set up for drafting right now out of this little water supply. Superior fire trucks out of Red Deer. I like the light bar. This caboose here under wraps, but what does the sign say? Wow, the steepest grade on the Canadian Pacific Railway system at 4.55% to come to Sandon. Can't really see much of the caboose there under the covering. The fella at the powerhouse did mention that the Caslow and Slocan railway had a much easier time because of their gradient along the lake coming here, whereas the CPR had to run heavier equipment because of the steep grade that they had to deal with. As he also said, there's not many places where you would find two railways competing, running lines into a dead-end valley. But it shows what the value of silver was in those days and just how it was worth it to them at the time until a fire came along and knocked out a lot of the trestles in the 30s, I believe he said, and at that point it just was no longer really worth the effort to keep the rail lines going. So now a little bit on the locomotive. CPR 6947, originally 1737, is a 280 consolidation. And if you've ever played Railroad Tycoon, you know those are often very useful in mountainous terrain for pulling heavy loads. Very much not the fastest, but it worked from 26 to 28 on the CPR's Kootenay subdivision. Various history, served Winnipeg and Moose Jaw yards until 1959. Retired in 1967. Moved to the Alberta Pioneer Railway Museum in 1970 and moved to Edmonton, and then got sold a few times and was moved here. And I don't know when it was moved here. Where was it? In the, I guess, in the late 90s. I think you can do it. Pull 2 or 3 times downward. Nice. Okay, so we came a little further up the valley. I don't know, maybe 2.5 kilometers up a fairly rough road. I won't call it a 4-wheel drive road because, you know, I'm pretty sure we could have made it in 2-wheel drive if we had to, but pretty rough, pretty rocky. But we have come to the site of the ghost town of Cody, British Columbia. So from what I gather, Cody and Sandon were sort of rival towns at one point, and there's not much left here in Cody. There's a lot of signs saying private property, so we can't get too far, but this is kind of where we wanted to come. There was, surprise, a geocache here that I wanted to find, and we had heard there were a couple cabins or other remnants of the town, so we figured we'd pop up here. From what I gathered, in just a bit of online research, while Sandon peaked at around like 5,000 people, Cody never got above several hundred. But it still managed to have multiple hotels, a livery stable, all of those amenities that you come to expect in a Wild West town. So it was all here at one point, but there's not much left today. This is likely the result or the remnants of the mining history of this area, contaminated soil and water. So we won't venture too far that way. But I definitely want to take a closer look at this building here and see if we can determine if it was a house at one point. In the spirit of respecting private property, we won't go in. You can see the grass is trampled though. A lot of people obviously do come up and look in the window here. Wow, that's a classic abandoned building right there. Bed frame on the far end. The curtains hanging there. Maybe it was a rooming house at one point or something. A couple doors there to the side. I can't really tell. We'll come around this side and stick the camera in the window, see if we can see in either of those rooms. Not really too well. See if you can get a better look than I can. Might have been a couple bedrooms. Regardless, neat old building. And like I said, I don't think a lot of people make the trip from Sandon further up the road here in the valley to check this out. So what a great building. And again, a fairly well beaten path through the grass here. Some broken glass, but I can maybe stick the camera in the back here. That gives us a look into those two rooms we could see from the front. Not much left inside. Outhouse in the back there. So there you go, a little bonus content. And got a visit to the ghost town of Cody, British Columbia. And another little bonus stop on our way back out of the Sandon area. This is the Sandon Cemetery. Let's go check this out. So despite there being a sign right there, we did not see this on the way in and drove right past it. But we're going to go check it out now. Found it thanks to the miracle of geocaching. Oh, wow. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. A lot. These are obviously recreated headstones, because wooden ones from 130 plus years ago likely would not be in this same great condition. So, nicely maintained. And it's a very peaceful place. Other than the sound of the creek across the road, you don't hear much of anything. And Emily asked the question, some of these WF of M, that's been on a number of them. Not sure what that refers to. There's a sign down by the entrance that we didn't see when we walked in. So maybe that will give us some ideas. And yes, this sign that we didn't see on the way in answers that question. So the cemetery established in 1898. And the WF of M is the Western Federation of Miners, which was a powerful union in Sandon and provided burials for the numerous young miners who died of accidents related to their occupation. Few burials occurred after 1920, although some graves of Japanese Canadians who died during their wartime evacuation, i.e. incarceration, to Sandon in the 1940s are at the extreme western boundary. And this document here that was under this protective cover looks like it has seen better days, especially now that I just did that. There we go. It's just held in by a tack that's been reattached. Yeah, this one here, November 10th, 1899, this would be one of the earliest burials. I mean, it says it was established in 1898. I did not see any other headstones earlier than that. And this one's interesting. They know exactly that he died March the 28th at the age of 26, but no name is listed. Lost to the ages. So far removed from the hustle and bustle of the tourist portion of the Sandon town site, the Sandon Cemetery remains peaceful and quiet, and that gate's no longer going to close properly, but we're going to pull it across there so that the ghosts of Sandon can relax and rest in peace.